So this next interview that I want to do is with Caroline. And Caroline is what we would say neurotypical, although I don't think there's too many things typical about Caroline. She's not on the spectrum, but she is friends with someone on the spectrum. And I want to talk a little bit about that because if we're going to create a space where there's people not bullying people at school, and if we're trying to make a place to include people who are different, I think it's important to talk to someone who knows how to do that, who has a genuine friendship with someone on the spectrum. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the positives, some of the challenging moments, and some things that Caroline has observed that she too would like to see change in our public high school systems. So we're just going to go ahead and already let everybody know because Caroline is friends with my daughter Sydney, who you've seen in an interview portion, several interview portions throughout this series. And one of the things that I said in the seminar was if you can find a neurotypical friend who treats your child with respect and just lets them be who they are, this is a gem and a treasure that you should treat as such. So Caroline is a gem and a treasure to me and to our family because one of the things about Caroline is her and Sydney together. It brings out Sydney's real personality, who she is when she's around Caroline, because there's not the social anxiety and, oh, if I do this wrong, she's not going to be my friend tomorrow, or she's going to say something at school. So by giving her that gift of friendship, it allows her to be herself. And because I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit, but you can tell when she's really stressed out and when she's her normal kind of eccentric self, and that's actually the self that you like, right? You like the kind of differences. Okay, so tell me how did you and Sydney meet? Because y'all been at similar schools the whole time, you're in a different grade, but what was kind of that thing that brought y'all together to meet each other?
We were actually just joking about this. She was in my early childhood education class, and we didn't know anybody. It was a very different grade group, and she walked in, and I sat at the table alone, and I noticed her. I said, "I know you. I've seen you before. Somebody I know." And she goes, "I know you too." And she sits down, and we kind of stuck with each other because we were all we had in that class, not knowing anybody, and we became obviously really close, and just turns out we're similar. She's awesome.
So kind of a connection point, I think, had y'all been in band class or marched something that was kind of similar that y'all had seen each other before?
Marching band.
Okay.
She was at the camp, and she was sort of friends with some of my friends, but I'd never actually gotten to talk to her, but I still knew her.
So this is kind of a person you've seen, kind of seen her around campus, shared band together because you play instruments yourself, and hopefully it's going to be a drum major. But so you've seen her, didn't really know much about her, whether she had autism or not. You know anything about that. You're in a class, you see her and say, hey, I don't know anybody else, but I kind of know this familiar face, so I think I'll just start chatting. And from Sydney's perspective, it was like a trauma bond from the other people that were in the class. It was like, yay, a normal person. Okay, so as you're getting to know her and you don't know autism, Asperger's, anything, there's just a girl with long blonde hair in your class that you've kind of seen her face. How do you approach each other? How do you start to get to know each other in class?
Well, it was great because she was goofy. She didn't sit there and like, who is this girl? Why is she talking to me? She talked back. And so since we would both talk back and forth, we got to know each other. And when she did tell me she was autistic, I was like, cool.
Okay.
It didn't.
So about how long in the relationship as being a friend did she tell you that?
A few months. Enough to where we got close enough to where we could tell jokes and have inside jokes. Tons of inside jokes.
Okay. So I think the first thing that Caroline said without even knowing that she said it was in order to initiate the friendship, Sydney was not necessarily the one that initiated with you, but you saw someone that you knew and wanted to get to know them, so you made the effort to get to know the person and just start talking and get to know each other and be silly together and all that. Then she tells you she's on the autism spectrum or has Asperger's. What did you even know at the time as to what that was or a definition of that? What did you think that meant?
In my mind, it just meant that there were some social differences compared to other kids that weren't on the spectrum. But I didn't really see anything abnormal. She just told me, and I just thought, oh, well, okay.
Okay, so you didn't really have a reaction to it. You just kind of went with the flow.
I said, it was really kind of weird, very casual, just kind of, okay. And then we continued talking about something we were joking about.
Which, from her perspective, was kind of a big deal because she's kind of started to learn and telling people sometimes people start to treat you different. But on the one hand, she wanted you to kind of give you some information that in case she did something that you didn't particularly like, which we'll talk about in a minute, that was kind of part of the autistic stuff. So you have a pretty basic understanding of what autism is. Did you have any understanding of how that impacts a relationship? Like, so it's one thing you're kind of friends at the beginning. There was somebody else that was making it very difficult for y'all to become closer friends. But when that part of the equation was removed and the two of y'all became, I mean, I hear each of you say best friends as you moved into that. So you're spending more time together. And so some of this autism, Asperger behavior is going to affect you and how y'all do your friendship. When she said that to you, I have autism, and you're like, cool, all right, I kind of know what that is. Was there any understanding of what some of those implications might be that could be sometimes a little bit challenging areas?
I mean, I don't really think of her as, I don't really think of it as that. When I think of any challenges, because there really aren't that many in my opinion. I just, like, that make it hard for us to be friends is, I just think, oh, maybe just a bad day or just something, you know, just a bad moment, because she's just majority all good, so I don't really think of it, oh, just being Aspie, you know, I don't look at it like that. It's just her being a person.
Okay. So I had, in us trying to kind of prepare for our interview and our time, I had sent you some things to kind of read, and I think I sent you a clip of someone who was kind of having a meltdown as an adult. As you were watching that, have you ever, now that you've seen that and been around Sydney now for almost 2 years, have you ever seen her kind of do that pull away, feeling kind of stressed like that woman was expressing in the video?
Well, the only times is since we had a class together, I saw her sort of, we had a last class of the day kind of thing, so I saw her after all the stressful incidents of school sometimes occurred. And so when she gets really stressed, she just kind of wants to be alone. And so I don't like that. I like to, here, let me help you. But, so that was just kind of, but she just kind of was like, warning you, I need space. And then she just kind of was like, leave me alone. It was hard for me because I just want to help her, but that's kind of the most I've seen. And she did get, you could tell she was very like, it's been a rough day. Don't touch me, don't talk to me. Look at me, don't.
And does she ever say, I mean, it's at home, she says that her people button is broken. Does she ever say that?
Oh, yeah. She's like, I cannot deal with people today.
I can't people anymore. I can't
people.
Oh,
yeah, I've heard that one.
Because when you had the class together first, was it a first or second period class, that elementary education?
Second period.
Second period. So then you had this other class that was a fourth period. So having been throughout the day and other interactions with other people that stress her out, or being in a class with somebody else and all of that, you'd get her at the fourth period where maybe she was a little bit done.
Yeah.
And then depending on what had happened that day, is either kind of more bubbly, let's go do something, or I'm done with people, don't talk to me, don't look at me, don't whatever. All right, so you said it's hard for you because you're a person who wants to kind of embrace and fix and make it all better, and she's kind of giving you the hand a little bit, like, no, I just really need you to stay back. At first, how did you kind of interpret that behavior? I mean, did it hurt your feelings because you didn't understand, or just it hurt your feelings because, like, I really want to help you and I can't? What are you kind of thinking the very first couple of times? Because you'd experienced her as a second period person, and now it's fourth period, which can be a completely different personality, and it wasn't something you had seen. How are you processing that?
Well, at first, when I first kind of saw that reaction, I wasn't like, I guess I was upset in a sense of kind of the combination of the two. Both I wanted to help, and the fact that I couldn't, just kind of like, oh, what do? I can't just sit here and watch her be upset. Like, I feel like it was kind of one of those crunching, I feel like I have to do that as her best friend. It's like, I need to go make your day better, but also when she tells me to go away, it kind of put me in that, what do I do? And I was kind of thought, sometimes, like the very first time I thought it was me. I was like, oh, she don't want me right now. Oh.
So almost personal, like, what did I do, or did I upset her?
Yeah.
Make her feel this way?
Yeah, until I got the realization that it wasn't me at first, I kind of was like, oh.
Okay, because that can be a part that's been problematic in some other relationships is when she would try to communicate, I just need to kind of back away from people. I'm just kind of get through this fourth period class, which I'm not looking forward to now because this happened right before class. Now I've got to look at this person or deal, whatever, and I just need to get through it and go. At first, it felt personal.
Mhm.
And so sometimes people who don't know her that well be like, oh, well, it's all about you, or you're just being selfish or rude or whatever. But you came to realize, and she kind of stuck in with it, that it wasn't a personal thing. It was really kind of about her trying to just grasp the situation, deal with the stress, and try not to say anything meaner or worse, right? And so it's actually her kind of being a good friend to you to be like, no, you really don't
Yeah.
want to talk to me right now.
It was a warning.
It was a warning. It was your warning symbol. So she started, at first it was, I feel bad because I can't help. I want to make it better. Oh no, what did I do?
Mhm.
But as you stayed in the friendship and kind of learned her signals, how does that affect you now if she's doing one of those I'm done, people button done?
Well, I know what I do when that kind of thing happens, or at least what I did because we're not in classes anymore, is first of all, whenever other students would talk to her, because I knew she didn't want to talk to anybody, and so I'd be like, hey, you might not want to do that. Come talk to me, not leave her be.
Let's just let her sit here for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's give her some alone time.
Exactly. And then I'd like to throw in some jokes just so she knows I'm like, you talk to me when you're ready, not mad, laugh a little, I got you.
All right, so in kind of your helping way, if you saw some of these more annoying people starting to approach or maybe could exasperate the anxiety or whatever the feeling was,
Yeah.
you might sweep in,
Yeah.
try to sweep away, so that would be your way to help, and then you would just try to broach the situation with some humor. I kind of see that you want to be alone, but I'm going to tell you some jokes to let you know I'm not mad at you, and I'm over here when you need me.
Mhm.
And so that became kind of a
Yeah.
norm. Okay. All right, so in one of my seminars on this DVD series, I'm talking about how to be a friend to someone on the spectrum. Because as we were talking about, there's really not anything that's, wrong or not normal about her, except for when it comes to social situations, which happens to be most of high school. That tends to cause stress, it tends to cause anxiety, and it causes her to usually maybe act in a way that she doesn't act when the two of you are together. So what do you see in the difference when you two are at the house baking, or you've gone to the mall, or you're doing something? How is she different in the school environment and when she's just with you or a couple of y'all's friends that y'all get along with? What is the difference that you see in her?
Well, it kind of goes back to that stress day. When I see her, when it's just us or when we're with our close friends, things like that, she never has those stressful moments. Like, she's stress-free and she doesn't really have leave me alone. She's like, hey, let's do stuff, this. All just the fun, goofy things that I love.
Almost really talkative. Almost like la 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 la, when it's at school is like, I'm coping, but can turn into a very talkative person when she's amongst people she trusts. Okay, so that's a difference you're seeing. So that person doesn't really show up at school a lot.
It does, but there's just more occasions where she's very stressful. Like, since I had the end of the day class after, social issues or school issues, things like that, then there were those stressful moments. But when I get to see her to myself, it's like they're gone, or, it's just us, or if a friend is with us, it's giggles and rainbows as opposed to...
And cupcakes.
Ooh,
Lots of cupcakes.